Hello, I'm Esther Gidhu-Ewart. It's Tuesday, November 1st. This is Africa 54.
The Pretoria talks between Addis and Mekele have been held in public silence, but their continuation has raised peace hopes for Ethiopian expats there. In the face of hunger, two Ghanaian entrepreneurs have created the Duapa App to help curb post-harvest crop losses to mitigate food insecurity. With breast cancer affecting billions of African and other women, survivor Helewa Ubao Ali describes her winning battle with Africa 54's Linord Moudou. All this and much more on today's Africa 54.
The ongoing peace talks in South Africa between the government of Ethiopia and the leadership of the Tigray region is raising hopes for an end to the nearly two-year-long war. Despite no media access to the talks or to the Tigray region, South Africa's Ethiopian community remains hopeful of a deal to end the deadly conflict. Linda Giftash reports from Johannesburg.
At the Queen Sheba Ethiopian restaurant in Johannesburg, food and culture is celebrated regardless of political divisions. So when the civil war broke out between the national government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front in northern Ethiopia 2 years ago, owner Wandu Tesfaye said he was shocked.
It was very surprised for me, but what happened was I hope this war has to be over and peace has to be integrated in the country.
The United Nations says more than 5.2 million people are facing hunger as a result of the war, and international pressure to find an end to the fighting is mounting. Peace talks led by the African Union began last week in South Africa between the warring parties. That prospect of silencing the guns has given the Ethiopian diaspora hope.
I'm expecting right now what's going on in Ethiopia to have some kind of peace agreement in the country. Of course, South Africa, they chose it because of we do have a large Ethiopian community also in South Africa, but also the African Union involved a lot about it.
Political analysts agree an African-led solution is needed as the conflict affects the continent.
I think it stopped being an internal conflict with the introduction of Eritrean forces during the first wave of fighting, where we saw thousands of Tigrayans fleeing to neighboring Sudan. Even that in itself meant that it's a regional conflict because then the Sudanese were involved.
Instability is among the reasons why Eyop Bisrat said he left Ethiopia in 2002 to set up a business in South Africa. While it's been hard to watch the recent conflict unfold, he said he was relieved to hear the talks would be happening in his backyard.
South Africa has influence in the rest of African countries. So I believe, having the talk here, I definitely believe that, some sort of good outcome will come out of this. And I believe it's the right place. I couldn't think of any other country, to host it,
But experts warn the ongoing talks that have kept the public largely in the dark are only the first step in a lengthy process to achieving peace.
I think this meeting is really not negotiations to end the conflict, but to agree on what to negotiate on. If both parties can agree on the immediate cessation of hostilities and the allowing into Tigray uninterrupted humanitarian aid. So those are really the basics.
Details have not been released about the peace talks, meaning Ethiopians at home and abroad wishing for a declaration of peace will still have to wait. Linda Giftash for VOA News, Johannesburg.
Tensions are high in the Democratic Republic of Congo as thousands of people joined protests in Goma to denounce Rwanda's alleged support of the M23 rebels. VOA's Paul Ndiho has more.
Thousands of people joined anti-Rwanda protests in the East Congolese city of Goma. Demonstrators marched and rode on motorbikes denouncing Rwanda's alleged support of the M23 rebel group. The Tutsi-led insurgency rose to prominence more than a decade ago when its fighters seized Goma, the largest city in the Congolese east, which sits along the border with Rwanda.
We are suffering more, and it's because of war of M23. And we know we have one country who support them, is Rwanda. So now we are protesting because of our neighbors, Rwanda, yes.
We want to show the international community, the whole world, that their plan, that they are preparing to divide the Congo. It will not pass. That's why we raise our flag and show them our country will not fall.
The United States is strongly condemning the resumption of fighting by the M23 rebel group in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Relations between Congo and Rwanda have been strained since the mass arrival in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo of Rwandan Hutus accused of slaughtering Tutsis during the 1994 genocide. Kinshasa regularly accuses Kigali of incursions into its territory and backing armed groups there. The M23 rebels last weekend seized a town of Kiwanji, effectively cutting off Goma from the upper half of the province. That action prompted the Congolese Foreign Ministry to expel Rwandan ambassador and recall its interim acting ambassador from Kigali. At least 4 civilians have been killed and more than 35,000 people have been forced to flee their homes since the fighting resumed in October. In July, Rwanda and Congo agreed to dial back tensions after Angola mediated discussions with Rwandan President Paul Kagame and his counterpart, Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi. At the time, Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi hoped this process would lead to an immediate ceasefire.
I hope this process will bring an immediate ceasefire and the withdrawal of that group, M23. And hope the implementation of the roadmap could lead us to the process of peace, stability, and mutual trust.
Rwandan president, on the other hand, extended an olive branch at the time and called for peace from both sides.
President, there's not much else to say other than thanking you and concurring with you.
The African Union earlier this year asked Angola to mediate between Congo and Rwanda under the auspices of a regional body known as the International Conference on the Great Lakes Region. About 170,000 people have been displaced since the M23 resurfaced in eastern Congo. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
For more on the Congo-Rwanda dispute, I'm joined live via Skype from Vancouver, Canada by Jason Stearns, founder of the Congo Research Group at the Center for International Cooperation at New York University. Jason, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you.
Now, the Congo-Rwanda feud is not new, but, right now, the act of expelling an ambassador from one country is usually a very loaded statement. What will it take for Congo to get rid of the M23 rebels and restore relations between those two neighbors?
Well, militarily it struggled. So the Congolese government has deployed an enormous number of forces. Just this week, they said they had spent $100 million on their troops in the eastern Congo. And so they're obviously trying to put the financial and military resources to invest those in the conflict, but they've struggled. As you can see, the M23 have now overrun not only the major town of Rutshuru and Kiwanja, but also the largest Congolese army camp of Rumangabo in the region. So militarily, they've struggled. At the same time, I think diplomatically, has been no headway. There's, I think, very credible reports of Rwandan backing of the M23. The M23 is a very small armed group. It really beggars belief that they'd be able to make these advances all by themselves. And so militarily, there's been little progress, and diplomatically, there's been little progress. So we're really at a standstill at the moment, I think, and there needs to be more work, I think, especially on the diplomatic front, to prevent further escalation.
Besides the M23 rebel group, Jason, there's also the ADF, the Allied Democratic Forces from Uganda, that also operates in Congo with impunity. Why is Congo so vulnerable?
Well, I think the root of this problem, you can speak of not just the ADF and the M23, there's over 100 different armed groups in the eastern DRC, 5 million people displaced. So there are numerous problems across the board. I think that instead of speaking about all of these individual groups, what you really need to talk about is the Congolese state, the Congolese government. They've really struggled to reform a state and an army that the president himself sometimes resembles a mafia more than it does an army. And so, whereas I think one needs to condemn and put pressure on regional countries to keep out of Congolese affairs, at the same time, the Congolese government needs to do much more to figure out how to reform its own security services, its own army, and get its own house in order. They've really struggled to do so.
Very briefly, Jason, what will it take now? Because the Nairobi process doesn't seem to really avail much in the peace process. What will it take the international community to do to bring these two parties together?
Well, I think there needs to be more diplomatic pressure, especially on the Rwandan government, perhaps also the Ugandan government, that have not played positive roles in this conflict. Until now, only the U.S. government has called out the Rwandan government. The UK even hosted an international summit in Rwanda, the Commonwealth Head of States meeting, early this year in the midst of this conflagration. There's been no denouncement by the UK government, the French government, or any other government of Rwandan action. So I think there needs to be more diplomatic pressure to get Rwanda to back down. That's what worked in 2013 during this previous escalation of the crisis. And the regional bodies, especially the Angolan government that has just sent its envoy to Kinshasa this week, I think they, together with the East African community, can play a critical role in furthering diplomatic progress, because I think military confrontation will just bring more suffering.
Right. Thank you so much, Jason. Jason Stearns is the founder of the Congo Research Group at the Center for International Cooperation at New York University. Hundreds of children in Niger with blue UNICEF bags on their backs are back at school after fleeing violence in their hometowns. Their new school is situated in Oulam, a town in southwestern Niger that has been plagued by jihadist violence for the past 5 years. Villages close to the Malian border in the so-called Three Borders Zone, these displaced young people can now go back to school thanks to a program that groups them in large school centers.
J'ai plus de 90 écoles fermées.
I have more than 90 schools closed, so this situation has prompted the regional management to think of a response. And this response is called Education to Liberty, with the roadmap. This roadmap created a cluster centers in the Tilbury region, including 3 cluster centers in Oulam.
In 2021, Amnesty International sounded the alarm about the recruitment of boys aged 15 to 17, mainly by the Al-Qaeda-affiliated support group for Islam and Muslims, particularly in the Torodi area near Burkina Faso, in agreement with their parents. Still to come, entrepreneurs in Ghana launched the Duapa App to help reverse rising post-harvest losses. We'll be back.
Next Straight Talk Africa, we'll take a look at the crucial midterm elections in the United States coming up on November 8th. Will there be a power shift in Congress? Join me, Heidi Adams, for an in-depth conversation about what is at stake in the U.S. midterms on Wednesday's Straight Talk Africa.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linord Moudou, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
In other news, Somalia's government is promising support for victims of the twin bombings in Mogadishu Saturday that killed at least 100 people and injured close to 300 others. Al-Shabaab is claiming responsibility for the attacks. A representative of Gambia's Medicines Control Agency says it has not yet confirmed that toxic cough syrup was the cause of the deaths of 70 children from acute kidney injury. And human rights defenders say Egyptian authorities are cracking down on activists over a mysterious call for protests on November 11th, when world leaders are set to convene at the COP27 climate summit. The Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that 193 million people in 53 countries experienced food insecurity in 2021. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture in Ghana has recorded high post-harvest losses of up to 54% from farm to retail operations. Two entrepreneurs in Accra have launched the Duapa App to help reverse the problem of rising post-harvest losses. Francisca Kakra-Forson reports.
Globally, 1.3 billion tons of food, or about 1/3 of food produced each year, is lost or wasted. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, in sub-Saharan Africa, there is a $23 billion difference between the production value of grains as compared to the value of post-harvest losses of the same produce. Current estimates from Ghana's Ministry of Food and Agriculture show a range of 10 to 20% post-harvest losses across dry cereals and 10 to 40% post-harvest losses in perishable fruits, vegetables, and roots and tubers. The West African country loses hundreds of thousands of farm produce, which runs into millions of dollars lost to the country that is currently going through economic hardship. In the capital, Accra, two agric entrepreneurs, Malcolm Griffith, CEO of Ashanti Produce International, an import-export trading company, and Evans Labi, a farmer and CEO of Bait, came together to create the Duapa App.
We faced a few challenges in reference to getting farmers' product to market, functionalizing the farmer, having a place to be able to have them collectively get information.
As a team, we realized that there's a need to bring the farmers close to the new world of farming in a digital space, and that brought the idea of the Duapa.
Award-winning farmer Mabel Akoto-Kujo has been farming maize, rice, cassava, cocoa, coffee, and vegetables for nearly 2 decades in the Oti region in Ghana. She tells me Duapa App is one app offering many relevant services within the agric value chain, unlike other apps which provide a specific service.
So there's a lot of climate change, so we have to also adjust to our planting method. And the Duapa App is one thing that prompts us when to start planting. And then whatever you plant, Duapa App records your harvest, and then you can buy products on the Duapa App.
The Duapa App is available on Google Play Store with a click of a button. All one has to do is to download and create an account to meet other farmers, marketers, farmers' unions, extension services, as well as get information about transportation and microcredit. Farmers can upload images of their produce, giving details about available quantities. The Duapa App is also available offline. Lead consultant in agribusiness at the John Ejekum Kufuor Foundation, Abraham Jumo Odum, tells me that farming apps is one of the ideas in agriculture that is long overdue for precision agriculture in Africa, and is absolutely important.
If we have those applications, then of course, farmers will not necessarily need the extension officers.
African farmers have their task cut out for them, turning post-harvest losses into gain to help feed and transform Africa into a self-reliant continent bereft of hunger, food insecurity, and poverty. Francisca Kakra-Forson for VOA News, Accra.
It's time for a health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Linord Moudou with the latest on breast cancer. Hello, Linord.
Hello, Esther. Well, it's a diagnosis many women fear, breast cancer. It's the most common cancer in women, as well as the most common cancer overall around the world. That's according to the World Cancer Research Fund International. Global data reveals that more than 2 million women were newly diagnosed with breast cancer in 2020. Being diagnosed with the disease is very scary. It is an experience Helewa Ubao Ali went through in 2019 here in the United States. Now cancer-free, she's sharing her experience.
That moment, it was very hard for me and even for my family. But I remember I was wake up, do my normal routine, go back to work, normal stuff, and my doctor called me, you know, Miss Ali, you need to come get your result, you know. So I went back there, my doctor sit down like this talking to me and hold my hands, you know, we got your result, Miss Ali, you diagnosed with breast cancer. I was like, what? No. That, because I could not believe it, because it was not, and we believe breast cancer run in the family, and as far as I know, nobody in my family, you know, had a breast cancer. So it was shock to me, shock to my friends and my family, you know, but thank God, from there, I talked to myself and I have a lot of faith. I told God, I said, you know what? I know I can beat this. Then I went to see my oncology. When I went to see him, he said, okay, Miss Ali, we're gonna do mammogram one more time. We want to make sure what stage you are and everything for your breast cancer. So we went back, we do mammogram. After that, you know, they find out it was stage 3. So we was like, okay, we're going to go ahead and do it. We start chemotherapy first. After chemotherapy, I do twice a week. I used to go twice a week, you know, for 2 months. After my chemotherapy, then I had to do surgery. You know, I did my surgery. You know, they put implant in, I remember it was February 2020, and the COVID started. And after my chemo, I couldn't go back to the hospital for 4 months. I was so scared, frustrated. I'm scared because I don't know what's it's gonna get worse.
Not every patient wants to talk about it.
Yes.
And you decided to talk about it. Why is it important for you to share your journey?
You know, especially we Africa, everything we just don't want to talk about. We put under the rug. Nobody wants to talk about it. Me, I even put my picture on my Instagram when I was bald head. You know, some people, they take a joke. Some people, they talk bad about me. You know, but for me, I feel like because me, it help a lot when I see somebody went through about cancer, and I listen to them, I look online, I listen to them, what they go through, it helped me. And I know somebody else, they can look at me, now they can have a hope. They be like, you know what, she was stage 3 just like me, and now look at her, she stand up, you know, she's strong, she could beat it, and I can do it.
And one of the things you talk about is how you were persistent when initially doctors were telling you, oh, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Talk about the fact that you took charge of your own health.
When I would go to my doctor, it's like, oh, this is nothing, this is normal, you know, just a tissue, but take ibuprofen, you're going to get better. I was like, okay, but you know yourself, something is not right. And I sit there for 2 days, I was like, no, I got to go see my other doctor. I got, you know, appointment after 2 days, they sent me to do biopsy. And still, since they told me it was nothing from the beginning, and I know breast cancer doesn't run in my family, back in my head, I'd be like, okay, I know this is not breast cancer, but I just want to know what it is. So when they called me to give me my result, I was like, wait a minute, no way, this is not my result. Because first of all, from the beginning, y'all told me this is not breast cancer sign. So it was really shocked to me and my whole family and friends.
When you think about the sisters back home and you look at your experience, what does it tell you? What do you feel?
Why now I start getting emotional because I have one of my friends, she's back home. She's younger than me. She told me, Ali, guess what? I couldn't make an appointment. If you call your doctor, ask for the appointment, you get after 3 months or 4 months, or you told the doctor, they told you the hospital is full right now. Could you imagine? You have a cancer, and then the doctor, the hospital you call and they told you, you know, you can't go back.
So what is your final message?
To be good for yourself and take care of yourself. And, you know, breast cancer is running not only for the family. Anybody can get breast cancer. Young, old, you can get twice. They just pray and be united together and help each other.
That was Helewa Ubao Ali sharing her experience with breast cancer. Now, health authorities are racing to contain an outbreak of cholera that is spreading worldwide. African countries, including Kenya, Cameroon, Nigeria, and Malawi, are fighting the waterborne disease. The United Nations says more than 5,000 cases of cholera have been recorded in Borno State in Nigeria, including 178 people who died. 50% of the cases are in areas with high concentrations of people displaced by conflict. An estimated 1 million people are at risk of catching the intestinal illness, which causes severe diarrhea and vomiting. Meanwhile, in Malawi, the death toll from cholera has risen to 180, according to the Minister of Health. The World Health Organization is sounding the alarm on the impact of lead poisoning. The WHO says an estimated 1 million people die from lead poisoning each year, and millions more are exposed to low levels of lead, causing lifelong health problems, including anemia, hypertension, immunotoxicity, and toxicity to the reproductive organs. Many victims are children. UNICEF estimates that 1 in 3 children in the world have unsafe levels of lead in their blood, above 5 micrograms per 1/10 of a liter. Lead is toxic to the body, including the central nervous system and brain, the reproductive system, kidneys, the cardiovascular system, the blood system, and the immune system. And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter at Linord Moudou. Back to you, Esther.
Thanks, Linord. Be sure to watch Linord Moudou's health report every Tuesday on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.
China emerged in the recent years under Xi Jinping's leadership. It is more repressive at home, it's more aggressive abroad, and in many instances that poses a challenge to our own interests as well as to our own values. This is a matter of concern not just to the United States, but it's of profound concern to countries around the world. The amount of commercial traffic that goes through the Straits every single day and that has an impact on economies around the world is enormous.